What if you were told you were pregnant without ever having done anything to make it happen? Sounds impossible, right? But that's exactly what happened to Sophia. In the first episode, we saw how an absurd medical mistake changed her life forever. Without meaning to, she was inseminated with the sample of an angry billionaire, while his wife hid an even bigger secret. Now the story continues. How will Sophia cope with this unexpected pregnancy? And what is Leonardo prepared to do to assume paternity? Get ready, because the revelations that follow are even more surprising. Sophia left the clinic with unsteady steps, the cold street air beating against her face. Her mind was in turmoil. How had this happened? A mistake, an administrative mistake. She didn't know whether to laugh or scream. She clutched her bag to her chest and walked aimlessly, ignoring the stares of the people around her. Her phone vibrated. It was Clara. "Finally, woman, where are you?" Her voice was full of concern. "I'm going home," she replied, still unsure if she believed what she had just heard. "Are you all right? You're talking strangely." Sophia hesitated. "I'll explain later. Just meet me at my apartment." She hung up before Clara could insist. She needed a moment to digest everything before putting it into words. When she got home, she dumped her bag on the sofa and went straight to the bathroom. She stared at her reflection. Her eyes were wide, her expression pale. She pulled up her blouse and looked at her flat stomach, as if she expected to see some kind of change. It was surreal. The sound of the doorbell broke her thoughts. Clara came in like a hurricane. "Okay, now tell me what happened. You look terrible." Sophia took a deep breath. "I'm pregnant." The silence was immediate. "What?" Clara's eyes widened. "But how?" "Apparently a medical error. I went to the clinic because I had a stomachache and was inseminated without consent." Clara let out a strange sound, a mixture of incredulity and indignation. "That can't be real. I wish it wasn't." Sophia threw her hands up. "But I did the test and it came back positive." Clara threw herself on the sofa. "What about Dad? Who's the guy whose sample was used?" "Leonardo Wellington." Clara's eyes widened even more. "The billionaire." Sophia nodded. "And worse, he already knows." Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Leonardo was in his office, holding a glass of whiskey. His lawyer, Marcos, was leafing through the documents about the medical error. "Do you want to sue them?" "I want to put an end to this clinic," Leonardo replied, his voice cold. "They played with lives." Marcos sighed. "This could lead to a scandal. Do you really want to expose yourself?" Leonardo gritted his teeth. "They used my sample without consent, and now there are children involved. So what are you going to do about Sophia?" Leonardo leaned back in his chair. "She must be scared, but one thing's for sure, I want those children." The next morning, Sophia tried to concentrate on her work, but it was impossible. Every few minutes her gaze went to her cell phone, as if she was waiting for a new bombshell. And then it came. Leonardo appeared in the office doorway, tall, imposing, and with a serious expression. Sophia's heart raced. "Can we talk?" Clara, who was standing next to him, widened her eyes and subtly moved away. Sophia swallowed and nodded. They went out onto the sidewalk, where the cold morning breeze made Sophia hug herself. Leonardo wasted no time. "I want to be there." "You don't even know me," said Sophia, crossing her arms. "And you don't know me either, but that doesn't change the facts." He kept his tone firm. "I'm not the type to shirk responsibility." Sophia sighed. "I'm still trying to understand all this. Do you think I planned this? I had a normal life until yesterday." Leonardo's expression softened. "I know. But now your life has changed, and I'm here to face it with you." She hesitated, looking into his eyes. For the first time, she saw something other than coldness and power. She saw sincerity, but she wasn't ready to trust yet. "I need time," Leonardo nodded. That's fine, but just know one thing. I'm not leaving. Sophia watched him walk away and disappear between the cars. She took a deep breath. Her life would never be the same again. Sophia stared at the computer screen, her fingers hovering over the keyboard without typing anything. Since her conversation with Leonardo, she had tried to follow her routine, but the weight of reality was overwhelming. How could she go on living normally, knowing that she was carrying the children of a billionaire she barely knew? Clara pulled up a chair and threw herself down next to her. "You look like a ghost." "Thanks for the compliment," Sophia muttered, rubbing her temples. "Have you spoken to him again?" Sophia shook her head. "No, but he was very clear. He said he wasn't going to disappear." Clara watched her for a moment and then let out a dramatic sigh. "And what about you? What do you intend to do?" "I still don't know," Sophia admitted, staring at the screen without really seeing anything. "Part of me wants to keep my distance, but I also know that it's not fair to raise these children without giving him the chance to be a father." "Point taken," Clara raised an eyebrow. "The guy has power and money, and from what I've seen, he seems genuinely interested. That's rare." Before Sophia could reply, her phone vibrated. An unknown number. "Pick up," Clara encouraged. Hesitating, Sophia slid her finger across the screen. "Hello?" "Sophia, it's me." Leonardo's voice was unmistakable. "What's up?" "I want to talk to you in person." "About what?" "About us, about the babies. I want to find a way to make it work." Sophia closed her eyes for a moment. "Okay, where?" "In a cafe near your work. In half an hour." She hesitated, but agreed. When she hung up, Clara clapped her hands excitedly. "This is going to be interesting." 30 minutes later, Sophia pushed open the cafe door and saw Leonardo already sitting at a discreet table. He looked up when he saw her and rose slightly to greet her. "Thank you for coming. I'm not sure I had much choice." She sat down, straightening her coat. Leonardo took a deep breath. "I know this is a shock for you. It was for me too. But the difference is that I've already made up my mind." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "And what would that be?" "I want to be present. I want to be an active father." She let out a dry laugh. "You talk as if it's simple. I know it's not. But we can find a compromise." Sophia looked at him for a moment. He seemed sincere. "What exactly do you expect from me?" "To let me be a part of it. I don't want you to go through this pregnancy alone." She crossed her arms. "That doesn't mean I'm going to depend on you. I'm not asking you to. I just want you to know that you can count on me." She looked away, fiddling with her coffee spoon. "You scare me a little." Leonardo arched an eyebrow. "Why is that?" "Because you're too confident. You always seem to know what to do. I, on the other hand, feel completely lost." Leonardo let out a sigh. "The truth is that I'm lost too, but I'm trying to cope as best I can." Sophia looked at him and, for the first time, saw a glimpse of vulnerability. "Okay," she murmured. "We can try to talk about it more." Leonardo nodded, a slight smile appearing on his lips. On the other side of town, Helena was gripping the phone tightly. "Are you sure about this?" Her voice was cold. "Yes, Mom. Leonardo was with her today. They're talking." Helena's eyes blazed with fury. "I'm not going to let this happen." She hung up the phone, determined to end it before it was too late. Sophia stared at the ceiling in her room, feeling the confusion still weighing on her. Since the conversation in the cafe, Leonardo hadn't pressed her, but he hadn't disappeared either. He sent messages asking how she was, suggested medical appointments, and showed a patience she hadn't expected. She didn't want to admit it, but it made her let her guard down. Clara came into the room with a bowl of ice cream and threw herself on the bed next to her. "How's the saga of your life going?" Sophia let out a nasal laugh. "A little less chaotic, but still far from normal." "And the billionaire?" Sophia sighed. He keeps insisting, but in a respectful way. Clara popped a spoonful of ice cream into her mouth. Is that bad? No. And I think that scares me more than if it were. The doorbell rang. Sophia frowned. Are you expecting someone? Clara asked. Sophia shook her head and got up to answer it. When she opened the door, Leonardo was there, holding a bag. What are you doing here? He held up the bag. I've brought you some food. I know you've been having strange cravings. Sophia crossed her arms, suspicious. How do you know that? Clara told me. She looked over her shoulder and saw her friend nodding with a guilty smile. Traitor, she muttered, but gave him room to enter. Leonardo placed the containers on the table and turned to her. Can we talk? Sophia sighed and sat down. All right. What about? He leaned in slightly. I want us to establish something concrete. This can't go on indefinitely. Sophia lowered her eyes. I know that, but I'm still afraid. Leonardo hesitated before speaking. What exactly scares you? She looked into his eyes. The possibility of you changing your mind, deciding that this life isn't for you and just leaving. Leonardo held her hand. I'm not that kind of man. Sophia felt a tightness in her chest. I have to believe that. He nodded. Then let me prove it. Her eyes locked onto his. How? Let's do it right. I want you to meet my family. I want to be by your side at appointments. I want this to be real. Sophia took a deep breath. Okay, but slowly. Leonardo smiled, relieved. The next day, Sophia agreed to have dinner with Leonardo. It was strange to think of it as normal, but she had to try. Over dinner, Leonardo told her about his childhood, about the weight of growing up with gigantic expectations. I never had a real family, he admitted. My parents were always more concerned with business than with me. Sophia watched him. And that's why you want to be a present father? Exactly, she nodded. Maybe we can learn together. Leonardo smiled. But before the mood got too light, his phone vibrated. He picked it up and his expression hardened. What is it? Sophia asked. He took a deep breath. Helena. Sophia frowned. What does she want now? He put the phone on the table. I bet it's not good. And he was right. Across town, Helena was talking to a reporter. I have an interesting story about Mr. Wellington, she said with a venomous smile. She was ready to destroy everything. Leonardo's phone kept vibrating on the table, but he didn't answer. Sophia noticed the tension on his face and knew that something was about to happen. What exactly can Helena do? She asked, crossing her arms. Leonardo let out a heavy sigh. She's vindictive. If she can't hit me directly, she'll try to hit you. Sophia laughed humorlessly. Good, because my life isn't complicated enough. The phone stopped ringing, but seconds later, Clara sent an urgent message. Check the news, now! Sophia unlocked her cell phone and, with a tightness in her chest, opened the website of a major digital magazine. Scandal involving billionaire and anonymous woman, non-consensual pregnancy or game of interests. Sophia's blood ran cold. It couldn't be true. Leonardo picked up the phone, read the headline and stood up abruptly. Helena did it. They're painting me as a profiteer. She felt tears forming, but held them back. Leonardo approached, holding her hands. I promise I'll sort this out. How? My way. The next morning, Leonardo called a press conference. Sophia watched it all on TV, her heart racing. In front of the reporters, Leonardo got straight to the point. What happened to Sophia was a medical error. But the only truth here is that it's not her fault. I chose to be there for her and our children, and nothing is going to change that. The repercussions were immediate. Helena tried to justify herself, but her credibility fell apart. Sophia, still processing everything, received a message from Leonardo. If you're ready, I want to see you. She hesitated, but then she picked up her bag and left. She found Leonardo at home. He seemed relieved to see her. "Well?" he asked. Sophia took a deep breath. "You did this for me?" "I did it for us." She smiled. "I think I finally believe you." Leonardo approached hesitantly. "Does that mean we're in this together?" Sophia looked at her own belly, then at him. "Yes." 8 months later, Sophia was in the delivery room. Clara squeezed her hand, and Leonardo held the other. "You can do it," he said. And then the baby's cries filled the room. Sophia looked at her children, then at Leonardo. "Welcome to our chaotic family." Leonardo smiled, his eyes shining. "And I wouldn't change a thing. The end."